Welcome to the lesson on calculating intersection points of two equations. Let's start by inputting two linear equations into the grapher. So we're going to first click on the y equals. All the graphing buttons are at the top of the screen. So let's click y equals. Then we're going to type in 2 and then the x. The x button is the button that's in the second column right beside the alpha button. It says x, t, and theta on it. So that's the x button. Plus 3. Then I'm going to press enter because I have two equations that I want to graph at the same time. So my second equation is y equals negative 1/2 x plus 1. So I'm going to type in negative, and then I'm going to create the fraction button. So the shortcut to do that is the alpha, or the green button, and then y equals. And then you'll see a pop-up box, and the n/d stands for numerator denominator. That's the form that I want. So I pick it, and I put in a 1, and then I scroll down, or you can scroll right. Scroll down to get to the denominator, and I type in a 2. Now I need to scroll right to get out from the denominator, and I need to type an x plus 1. At this point, I want to go to the zoom button, which is in the top bar right in the center, and I want to make sure that my graphing screen is set up the way that I want it to be. The standard screen that I want to start with is called Z standard or zoom standard, so we're going to scroll down to number 6. Another way to pick that is just to simply type 6 and then press enter. Once you set your zoom button to zoom standard, you don't have to reset it every time you type in a new equation unless you want to change the screen. So you can see that I've graphed two equations and they do cross each other. So I want to find where they cross. So the way to calculate the intersection point is not just to press trace. I actually want to calculate. So I'm going to press second, which is the blue button, and then trace, which above the trace button you see in blue, it says calc. At that point, I want to go down, scroll down to the intersect button. So let's just type in 5 like I told you a minute ago. And here we're going to follow the directions that are on the screen. If you notice at the bottom of the screen, it asks you a question, first curve. So you know you're on one of the equations by looking at the top left of the screen where it says y1. That's our first equation. Then we're going to press yes, or the way to enter yes is just to press enter. That's how you say yes, I'm on the first curve. Then you notice the question says second curve. You look at the top, you notice that the equation has changed now to y2, which is our second equation, equals 1/2 x plus 1, negative 1/2 x plus 1. So again, I'm going to say yes by pressing enter. The third question is always guess. This is just a programming issue with the calculator. You need to help the calculator hone in on the point that you think is the intersection point. So I'm going to scroll to the left. I'm going to scroll past it just so that you can see the cursor. You see the cursor is following one of the equations. See it blinking. You want to put that blinking cursor on the intersection point, or it's at least near to the intersection point. So I'm going to scroll back to the place where I feel like is the intersection point, and it's somewhere around that point. Again, it doesn't have to be exactly on the point. Now to calculate the intersection point, you have to press enter. So this is the exact intersection point, which tells you, the calculator tells you, it says intersection. The coordinate is x equals negative 0.8 and y equals 1.4. All right. Let's go back. We're going to look at the second equation. This time we're going to type in a trig function. So there's a couple of things that we need to do. We need to change the mode of our calculator to radians, because if you see on the screen, we're given the domain of 0 is less than or equal to x is less than 2 pi, which is in radian mode. So I type mode, and then I'm going to scroll down to radian, and I'm pressing enter to change it. And now to come out of that screen, I'm just going to press second and quit. When I have a trig equation set up as sine 2x equals tan x sine x, and it has an equal sign, and it doesn't clearly say y equals something and y equals something else, what we're going to do is we're going to basically consider the equal sign to be a bar or something. We're going to write two equations in the calculator. Let's just take the left-hand side is going to be our y1 equation. That's an equal sign. The right-hand side will be our y2 equation. So let's go to y equals. We're going to clear out the current equation. I'm going to clear out both of them. And we'll scroll back up to y equals. And now I'm going to type in sine 2x. So I just find the sine button. And then notice it opens up a parenthesis. So then I type in a 2 and then an x, which is right next to the alpha button. Now let's close the parentheses. Then we're going to scroll down to y2 and let's type in tan x sine x. That's just the two trig functions multiplied. So we're going to put tan and then type in x. You have to close the parentheses. The calculator will not do the correct intersection point unless you tell it to stop the tan function and start the sine function. Now, at this point, you can put a time symbol or you can simply type sine. The calculator understands two functions right beside each other will definitely always be multiplied unless you tell the calculator otherwise. So then we type in an x. Again, let's close the parentheses. And now this time we're going to type zoom because we have trig functions in here. We want to go down to number 7, which is z trig or zoom trigonometry. So again, you can scroll down or you can simply type the 7. And that's what happens when you scroll down. Sometimes you go a little bit too far. So all you have to do is scroll back up and then press enter to pick it. Now, the first equation is graphing and then the second equation will graph. We're waiting on it to finish completely, going from left to right. It's graphing from negative 2 pi to positive 2 pi. We want to find the intersection points that are from 0 to 2 pi. So you can see the little ticks that are on the calculator just slightly in here. There's one right here. There's one right here. Here's another one. Each one of these ticks represents 1/2 pi or 90 degrees if you want to think of that way. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 intersection points in that domain. I'm going to find them all. So the way to do this is we're going to calculate. So you need to go to second and then trace, which in the blue you'll see that it says calculate. Remember that we're finding the intersection point. So we're going to go to number 5. Watch the directions on the screen. It says first curve. You know you're on the first curve by looking at the upper left-hand corner. It says y1 equals sine 2x. So we say yes by pressing enter. Second curve, again, it says y2. So that is our second equation. So then we press enter to say yes. And our guess, it happens to be exactly on the point where we think. It looks to me as if that's the intersection point. So I'm not going to move it. And I'm going to press enter. And in fact, that is the intersection point, 0, 0. So let's go and find the second intersection point. We start all over, press second, calculate, go down to intersect. I think I'm going to press the number 5. First curve, yes, that says y1. Second curve, yes, that says y2. Now we need to scroll to this point up here. So we're just going to use the right arrow key. Up and down key will not work, and you'll know that, but you'll start pushing it and it won't move the cursor. So then you just press the right arrow key or the left arrow key. So I'm approximately at that intersection point, so I'm going to press enter. And here the calculator tells me that my intersection point is 0.896. We're going to round that off. Y equals 0.976. Normally on trig equations, we don't need to know the y coordinate. We really are just interested in the x coordinate. So let's find the next one. Second, calculate, intersect, and first curve is y1, enter. Second curve is y2, press enter. This time we want to move it over here. So we're going to scroll to the right again. No. Yes, actually, okay, see what just happened? As we scroll to the right, we're following that tangent curve, so it's going to look like it's going off the screen. But if you keep pressing to the right, you'll notice that it's going to come up from underneath the next little parabolic shape or the U shape. So you just keep pressing to the right, and it will get to that intersection point and press enter. That's my best guess. It's approximately right here. So I'm going to press enter. And that intersection point is 2.256. And again, we're not worried with the y coordinate. That concludes our lesson on calculating intersection points of two equations.